GIZ on, around the water stewardship and the, different approaches to sustainable industrial areas with Dr. Faith Lawrence, who will be coming with her colleague, Mrs. Sarah Bierholter as well. So they will be, I think, doing a joint presentation. So we're not going to time them because they promised me that they're going to be, why are you surprised? Signs of sugar rush there. I can see them. So they promised me that they're going to just do things quite efficiently, like the title of their, the work they do. They are efficient people, resilient people, sustainable people, all those beautiful things. Let's give them a big round of applause, please. Okay?
Hi, everybody. So Bent warned me, we go very quickly. I hope this is the right way. I'm going to be talking to you together with Sarah Bierholter on different approaches to sustainable industrial areas. I will speak specifically on the Alliance for Water Stewardship standard, which is a standard that we've been promoting on the sustainable use of water, primarily with the private sector. And Sarah will be talking to you a little bit about the Natural Resources Risks and Action Framework, NRAF, which is a framework developed by GIZ's Natural Resources Stewardship Program. For those of you who don't know me, I am working for the Global Alliance for Water Stewardship as the new head of policy engagement, and we are a Scottish NGO focusing specifically on sustainable use of water through water stewardship. Maybe just to start, I just go the other way. Maybe just to start off, you have heard so many presentations, excellent presentations on the Eco-Industrial Park framework. I won't go into the detail, but the spirit of what we wanted to do, had we had the time, is to follow through a logic of the EIP, where it sits, and Sarah will talk a little bit more about that, but also locate water stewardship within it. But maybe just to say, we want to pick up on 2 or 3 key points of the Eco-Industrial Park framework. One, it defines basic requirements and performance criteria, and we've heard about the performance criteria against which the eco-industrial status of the park is measured, but also the fact that it's a community of businesses who seek to achieve enhanced environmental, economic, social performance through collaboration and managing environmental and resource issues. And for us, the whole objective of really working collaboratively across those performance areas is very critical and key. And as we know, looking at performance management and looking at impact of work at industrial sites remains, 1, a big challenge, but 2, an opportunity for both governments who are prioritizing industrial parks, but also for private sector companies who are tenants and residents in these parks. The framework, you've heard about this. There are a number of different support pillars, and we're going to focus specifically on the elements relevant to the resource element of it. I think it's important to say that the park management as a pillar for eco-industrial parks, services and governance is something that really sets the scene for how we want to look at managing of resource efficiency in these parks, how infrastructure is being managed, as well as the symbiotic relationships across the different industries. And we've heard lots of different examples. There was the conversation around circular economy that was raised earlier that came to mind, and the whole issue of resource use efficiency. But I'm going to speak to you a little bit about one of the natural resource elements within an industrial park that we've been zooming in on, and that's around the topic of water and the sustainable use of water in industrial sites. So I mentioned to you that I work for the Alliance for Water Stewardship. Those of you know me, I used to work for Natures. You saw that in my background. But the Alliance for Water Stewardship is a membership-based alliance, and we have more than 200 members from the public sector, mainly private sector as well, and civil society organizations across the world who have water and water security and water use and water sustainability as a key priority focus of these companies and organizations. We have a number of different ways in which we harness water stewardship, and I'll talk to you about it a little bit. But the center of the work we do as a water stewardship community is embracing a water stewardship standard, and we heard a lot about standards and the value of standards and the benchmarking role that standards bring. We have a water stewardship standard where there are more than 480 sites, registered and certified sites, who've embraced the water stewardship standard. But more importantly, and I think this came up in Christian's comment towards the end of his input, not only are there sites who are seeking certification, but there are also others who are using the standard against which they are, one, managing their water or EIP journey, if you want to talk about the EIP standard. And for us, we've learned a lot from the more than 14,000 downloads or more users downloading and using the water stewardship standard as their guide for good water stewardship performance. Then obviously, and in addition to that, we've then had sites that have certified, and you see the spread, the global spread across the world of that. Water stewardship for us is the use of water that is socially and culturally equitable, environmentally sustainable, and economically beneficial. And it's achieved through a stakeholder inclusive process. Stakeholder inclusivity is at the center of water stewardship, and it involves site and catchment-based action. So at the center of it is a standard that was developed and implemented. It's a guiding framework for sustainable use of water. And the framework really puts in place a number of steps, 5 steps, around which a water stewardship journey is embarked on and measured should you go for the standards of certification. And the steps are very, very simple, very specific. It's around gathering understanding. So very much the Plan, Do, Check, Act that Ben spoke about earlier. It's about gathering and understanding information about your water usage in the context of an industrial park. How are you using your water in the context of a company in an industrial park? What are the considerations upstream and downstream of your operation that you need to be mindful of? And what does this entail in terms of water usage and water availability in that area? The second step is around committing and planning. So you understand your context and you commit and plan by developing a water stewardship plan. And the plan then outlines your water stewardship journey against which you then, in terms of your implementation, which is the step 3, your site water stewardship plan is done. Then we have the evaluation, which is the 4th step. Tammy's just pointing it out, but I have different specs for different distances, so I can't. So I can't really see so well. And then we have the final step, which is communicating and disclosing. And this is really about disclosing the site stewardship efforts and being very public about it in terms of how you've managed your journey and what that means. The standard really speaks to 5 outcomes: good water governance, sustainable water balance, good water quality status, and of course the outcome of good water, important water-related areas. So, for example, if you work in an industrial park and you've got a wetlands in your area, there's a number of different outcomes and activities and actions that you would be contributing towards to address the water-related area in your area. And then the topic of WASH, safe water, sanitation, and hygiene for all. We know very much in industrial parks this becomes a big issue. Just ask any industrial park manager to count how many toilets or how many bathroom facilities as a very basic starting point is available on site. And many will not be able to give you that number just off the top of their head. But central also to water stewardship is really the topic of collective action. It's really understanding that if you are a good water steward, you understand that you have to understand your own water usage, but you're also reliant on others to do the same. And in this instance, working collectively with others and trying to come up with collective action around water risks, shared water challenges in a catchment, in an area alongside an industrial park, or in a community that is reliant on the same water source as your industrial site becomes a big opportunity as well. So one of the big things that we've been dealing with as a global water stewardship community is trying to really unlock what do we mean by water stewardship, collective action within a water stewardship context, but not only understand what that means. There's been many different examples, you saw the map of all the people who have downloaded the standard and all the sites that have been certified. They have all embarked on a collective action approaches where they understand that the site, the industrial site or the catchment, where they're working, you cannot focus on that alone. You have to look at the others who share the same resource and the collective action and collective approach that's needed around it. And coming up with shared challenges, if you're understanding the different steps of the water stewardship journey, but also understanding that you need shared solutions. And we've really looked at that in a very strategic way. I wanted to say two quick things. As Bernd says, I have 1 minute left. I was exposed to a very interesting. I was on a panel with the Chinese water. There was a number of different water industrial parks that's been prioritized as strategic economic zones and areas in the Chinese context, and many different partners are working with the Chinese government around that. And what was interesting is that they've embarked, and I was very impressed. They've been embarking on the water stewardship journey as a strategic imperative of government, looking at what is the readiness of the site to look at market-facing opportunities, but also how do you get those sites to work collaboratively with the communities living alongside the site in the industrial park, but also with other government partners and agencies who are also dependent on energy efficient measures, SOPs around how they're using their energy or how they're managing their access points or their transport, etc. So the point is there's a number of different governments that are prioritizing, and I want to commend Tami as I hand over to Sarah, because the South African government and the DTIC has done that very embracingly in the reimagined industrial park process. And I think what's really great about this initiative around advancing eco-industrial parks, but also looking at resource efficiency within it, is also saying we can't do this alone as industrialists or as park owners or park managers. We need to do it alongside the communities who draw down on the same resource, the communities where we get our employees from, but also the natural environment from which we draw critical resources like water. Sarah, I'm going to hand over to you now. Sarah's going to talk to us a little bit about the nature's natural resource action framework, which really demonstrates how we can take that collective action into a framework that could really guide how do we work collectively with the stakeholders that I've just mentioned around resource use efficiency and good water practice and natural resource management in our parks.
Thank you. Let's give a big round of applause, please. Sarah? Don't you like how I do it? Seated, relax. This is a good session, right? Yeah. Sarah,
I'm just gonna take over from there and introduce you to the third approach that we have on the table, which is, no, this is the wrong direction. The Natural Resources Risk and Action Framework, in short, NRAF. So this is a process which we have developed especially to set up multi-stakeholder partnerships for stewardship, and they always include the private sector, the public sector, and the civil society. And it leads from the preparation of such a multi-stakeholder partnership in 5 steps, which I will show you in the next slide, until the point where such a partnership is self-sustaining and they are operating totally independent from any organization like GIZ who has kicked them off. That is the idea, that it is standing alone in one moment in time. The NRAF works with a risk-focused approach, so we are always looking at a certain risk in an area. Can be an industrial park and its surroundings, it can be a city, it can be a catchment or a basin. And we are working with the assumptions that we normally have risks which are associated to the use and the management, often the not sustainable management of natural resources, which can't be addressed by one sector alone. The risks are normally relatively big. Everybody is affected by those risks, private, public, and civil society. And if they collaborate and they take joint action, they are able to address the risk. Only one alone will not be the game changer. Our goal, as I said, is to reduce the risks that the stakeholders are facing, and we are doing that in a participatory and in an inclusive process. So I actually captured several times today the word of ownership around the industrial park, stakeholder engagement, inclusivity. So those are things which we are delivering with those NRAF processes for multi-stakeholder partnerships. So the partnerships, they go jointly through the process, they shape their partnership, they commit and they act. And then together they create increased natural resources security, and with that also production security on a longer run for private businesses and for industrial sites. For industrial areas, this process leads normally to a better and a long-term production security, but also to less regulatory risks, better investment climates, job security, job creation, improved relations with the population. So I heard today in a lot of cases that this is actually a difficult point, the surrounding communities and the population. Less environmental impact and a better transparency and reputational gains also for the private sector. So the process is set up in 5 steps. Partnership creation and partnership execution. We start normally in a prepare phase where we identify relevant stakeholders in a certain area, and we discuss the problems which are there in relation to the natural resources, and we recognize the interests of all stakeholders which are there. We do that very inclusively, very broadly, inviting everybody who could come to the table. And if we can then move to a second phase, we start really to assess. We are assessing the risks in the area, but also the opportunities. Always remember, there are not only risks, there are also opportunities, which we are not using because we are not collaborating. And the stakeholders start to jointly to develop options to respond to those risks, and they start to prioritize them. And we deliver normally also cost and benefit analysis so that they can better decide which are good options and which options maybe do not deliver on their purpose. We start to shape that partnership, and we are developing together with them a partnership action plan. And then we move to a phase which we are calling commit, where we are developing business cases, models of delivery, and we secure the commitment of all stakeholders, which would mean in such a partnership action plan, they would sign it and they would commit to certain activities where they put resources, being it own facilities, own personnel, but also committing financial resources. So it is a joint action from the beginning to the end, also when it comes to financing. Then we enter to act, and we implement those activities which we have agreed with the stakeholders. We keep on empowering and advising the stakeholders, bringing in innovations. We help to coordinate and to manage, and gradually the partnership also goes totally to the side of the partners, because we always have the aim in one moment in time to pull out, and they do it then alone. And we monitor progress. And if This can go, let's say, like a circle for a couple of years, and if the partnership then is mature enough, the moment for scaling and exiting will come, and we will document the lessons learned, evaluate the impact, and ensure that the sustainable impact, which can persist over time, has been achieved. I'm continuing pressing the wrong button. So what was an interesting topic for us is, and you were also speaking in the last sessions about this integrating approaches and not duplicating things. So we wanted to show you also a little bit how those three frameworks, they are not exclusive. It's not, I'm doing AWS, I don't want to do EIP, or I'm doing NRAF, I'm not doing EIP. They are actually very much beneficial if we do them together, and they have a lot of synergies. So if we look at this small graphic, the inner square is the EIP, which is focusing on the industrial park, and thematically looking at energy, resources, circularity, waste, the water drop, the water is missed actually, as I note now. And we have the social engagement and the community engagement included, but at a lower intensity. Then the AWS is a layer on top where it is possible to deliver all the water-related content for the EIP implementation and for the EIP framework through the AWS certification and process. And the AWS is thematically narrow on water, but in general broader, looks at the industrial side, but also at the catchment. And it has a stronger community involvement. And then we have the NRAF, which is the bigger square, which is in a broader area, which is looking also at reducing natural resources risk at a broader scale, and is also transferable to many other contexts. So we can do it in the industrial park context and surroundings, but we can also do that in cities, in catchments. We even are trying at the moment to find a way to transfer to value chains, actually. And there we have very broad engagement in biodiversity, water, soil, other natural resources, agricultural aspects, and a strong community component, because civil society is part of the partnerships and they are signing up and they are also owning all activities there. I wanted to say very briefly something about the similarities and the differences. So if you look at the three frameworks, all those three frameworks emphasize on sustainability, stakeholder engagement, the need for integrated approaches to manage environmental resources sustainably. Is at different intensities, but they have very big similarities. And they all aim to minimize the environmental impacts and ensure the long-term viability of the resources, and then with that also of the livelihoods and of the economic production. The differences are, as I said, EIP framework specifically focused on industrial settings, promoting the synergies among the businesses there, water stewardship approach specialized on water resources, industrial site and catchment, and the NRAF as broader, more holistic instrument focusing on risk management and very strong environmental and stakeholder inclusion aspects. We have huge synergies. All three approaches stress the importance of integrated resource management. If we can combine them, we create a very comprehensive, create very comprehensive resource management plans which are addressing multiple challenges, which can include also beyond water, soil, energy, materials, biodiversity, whatever is interesting in the place, and we can aim at holistically improving the overall sustainability. The methodologies rely strongly on stakeholder engagement, and it's very important that the diverse perspectives are considered in decision-making processes. We can align the risk assessment methodologies of the three approaches, and we could dream about creating a unified risk management framework. I think that would be possible. And the integration of the AWS standard and the NRAF with the ERP framework is possible and very beneficial. As I explained, it delivers on the EIP the environmental, the water management, and the social component, and can help the ERP implementation. All three frameworks also prioritize monitoring adaptive management, and all three have data-driven methodologies with strongholds on different areas which can complement actually each other. With that one, I think I come to the last slides about the benefits. So if we are incorporating the three approaches, then we can really come to a point where we are managing resources in an integrated and holistic manner. This is something that is driving us very much. This will lead to more efficient use of resources, reduced waste, and also to lower operational costs. And I think it goes hand in hand with ideas like industrial symbiosis and other stuff. It will also lead to significant environmental benefits because we will be able to address several environmental issues simultaneously. And we will be able, by doing that, also ensuring the inclusion of social aspects. Collectively, they provide a robust system for identifying, assessing, and mitigating various environmental, social, and operational risks. And this leads also for the industrial areas to increased environmental regulatory resilience and against market-related shocks. And the three frameworks emphasize the importance of engaging with stakeholders, including the local communities, government, and NGOs. And if we combine them, we are very strong on those aspects, and this leads to better relationships, enhanced trust with the communities, and a stronger social license to operate for the industrial areas, while we are jointly enabling a just transition process where we are not leaving anybody behind. If you want to learn more about how we are doing those stewardship multi-stakeholder partnerships, you will get the presentation with the documentation of the event. There is a website, there is a newsletter, and we have a self-paced e-learning on the Natural Resources Risk and Action Framework, which you can access from everywhere for free and self-paced. So we will be happy if you visit us. And I'm also doing the advertisement slot for FAITH. Also, the Alliance for Water Stewardship is having very interesting products which are available in the internet and a global training on the AWS standard. So please visit also their website and inform yourself. Thank you very much for your
attentiveness, you see.
Attention at this late hour. You know, even myself, I'm a little bit tired. Thank you very much for your attention at this late hour.
Give a big round of applause. Mark, you can come through. For a second there, I thought we had Mick Jagger, you know. He's Mark Jagger. Let's give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to be talking to us about the tools and approaches towards sustainable industrial areas. Talk about transformation of those areas. Thank you. We're all yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tammy, for the kind introduction. To pick up on the point, I think that Vanessa mentioned in one of the earlier sessions, I would also belong to the group in the room that might have still more years ahead, but at the same time, far less experience to draw from. So I'm very glad that I don't have to give this input of my own on GIZ tools and approaches, but will be joined also by my colleague, Rem Mahmoud, who has been working on the topic for many years and will also provide some case study insights from her project in Egypt as we go along. So yeah, why sustainable industrial areas? When I sent the slides to Bernd last week, he said, "This is the last session. Are you sure you really want to start with this again?" But, and yes, indeed, this might probably be a bit redundant, but as tools are always a means to an end, And I just would like to highlight 2 points or objectives that also stand out to me from some of the inputs that we also heard from the previous sessions. And that's on the one hand, a sustainable industrial areas approach is firstly all about balancing economic, ecological, and social aspects in industrial areas. And secondly, also creating common benefits through joint services and industrial synergies. So this means decoupling industrial growth from the negative effects it can have with regards to resource use, pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and so on, while on the other hand, contributing to improving competitiveness, creating good quality jobs, increasing quality of life for communities, just to name a few examples. So therefore, and as has also been visible in some of the previous inputs, a sustainable industrial areas approach presents an important element of GIZ's advice to its stakeholders in the industrial sector. Yes, secondly, the EIP framework, and also here we go again, but yes, also GIZ is guided by the EIP framework and committed to it and its prerequisites and performance indicators across all 4 dimensions in its project implementation. So while the international EIP framework provides useful orientation and serves as an international benchmark, we've also heard there's no one-size-fits-all blueprint to achieving these prerequisites and indicators in different contexts in the same way. So when going over this point, actually, this kind of reminded me of a personal anecdote of what I experienced in the past few days when arriving in South Africa. With my laptop, which included my slides, my speaking points, all nicely prepared. And then I tried to plug in my laptop and noticed that my charging cable does not match the local socket. So, and this kind of showed to me that no matter how well something might be conceptualized in theory or not, it won't work if it does not consider the context you plan to apply it in. And this, of course, is a very simplified depiction, but it is with the same high value to context and needs-based consideration that GIZ also aims to design and implement its project with regard to sustainable industrial areas. So maybe one could even say that project and tools that are used to advance a sustainable industrial areas approach can kind of serve as an adapter to implementing the eco-industrial parks framework. And it is through these projects over the past 2 decades in many different countries in Africa, Europe, and Asia that significant know-how and experience has been developed. And while context sensitivity is critical, at the same time, it's also important to not always reinvent the wheel. And to profit from this knowledge and experience that has been generated on the project level in these various projects, members and colleagues from these projects, as well as involved experts, have formed a working group on sustainable industrial areas. And it's through these working groups member project that a number of tools contributing to a sustainable industrial areas transformation have been developed. And these tools, I think currently it's over 60 in number, are publicly available on our open source platform, the SIA Toolbox. And it includes a number of trainings, assessments, manuals, and other materials, which are all publicly available free of charge. And just to give you an idea of what they can look like, let me show you a few quick examples. So firstly here, a manual with concrete steps and procedures for industrial parks to better adapt and increase resilience to climate change impacts. then here an example of an assessment tool, specifically the EQUIP tool, which offers stakeholders methodologies and strategy design and diagnosis approaches for evidence-based industrial policies. And there's also a number of trainings, like the one that Sarah had mentioned before, that are also publicly available on our platform. One example here, a self-paced e-training on resource-efficient chemical management in industrial processing. So here, just to give you an idea of the spectrum of tools that are available in the toolbox. One more tool that many sustainable industrial area projects have implemented in one form or another is a gap assessment. And that is something where Reem will share a few insights on how a gap assessment was used in her project on private sector innovation in Egypt. Over to you.
Let's give him a big round of applause.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can hear me now. So my name is Reem Mahmoud. I'm happy to be with you today. I'm sorry that you are listening to us at the last session, but we will try to be light and delight. So I'm talking to you about my more than 20 years of experience, including 8 of which focused on supporting industrial areas in Egypt, both public and private industrial areas, to transform into sustainability. Why is that? Trying to convince you that the gap analysis tool that was displayed by Mark from previous slides is one of the most beneficial practical tools. How is that? This will be shown through my presentation now. So one of the big industrial areas that we supported in Egypt was Industria West, which is located at the northeast part of Egypt. And it's a very large industrial area, as you can see, with different sectors, multinational and SMEs tenants. Yes, the top management of the park was very interested. They heard about the experience of the GIZ with the sustainability measures and the SEA guidelines, and they want to apply it. But still, the mindset is a real estate mindset. They have a land, they want to sell it. Yes, they are interested with this, the value added of having badged by SEA compliant. But still, we followed, like Sarah said, and faced 5 stages of a journey of transformation, starting by preparing not only the park, but also, as Bernard said, the tenants and Chris in the previous session, and creating a common mindset to do this gap analysis using a very comprehensive tool that we'll see now that can give us an overall picture, detailed and categorized, not only categorized, but subcategorized over the 4 aspects of the sustainability or the EIP framework. Then followed by action planning and followed finally by monitoring and closing. What is the objective of using this gap analysis? First of all, to unveil the gaps, or I would rather say, not gaps, but potential or needs for improvement on the level of the industrial park management and design, as well as the tenants. Finally, also assessing the compatibility of the park in terms of design, infrastructure, as well as operation, day-to-day operation of a park, securing the commitment of the tenants and the park manager, gaining momentum and ensuring visibility. As you can see, this slide summarizes the results of such comprehensive gap analysis tool. It categorized the gaps, or as I said, the needs for improvement on the park level management, on the social and economical, environmental performance aspects, as well as subcategories inside. Not all of this was tackled, but with agreement with the tenants as well as the park manager, we agreed to focus on a 5-year action plan to support them. And as example of this intensive, there's no space that we show you the Excel sheet with all the questions and EIP indicators, but it's really a comprehensive work that took us more than 6 months with each park. But for example, we agreed that on the park management indicator, there was a need to improve the customer relationship management. So the action that was agreed with both the staff and the tenants and the park manager is that we should do a customer satisfaction services survey on regular basis. On the environmental performance, for example, there was a need to introduce the environmental and energy management system. So there was agreement that we should start together with the team doing an SOPs, as Bernard showed us in his presentation, and that is started in 2021 and almost done by 2024. Social performance, there was a need to improve the social infrastructure services, so making the park more attractive, especially for the female workers in Egypt, inside the park. And the economic performance indicator, there was a need to generate more jobs in line with the Egyptian government objectives, and that was solved by doing matchmaking events. This was an action, as well as networking with vocational training institutes in the community around. By this, I end the slide on the case of Egypt. I know it's very intensive that to summarize in 4 slides, but we are here to answer any question of you, as well as to note that Swedi Group has more than 6 industrial parks, including one in Tanzania City, where they used what they have learned with us in Egypt and applied it in green and brownfield industrial areas. Thank you so much for listening. I hand over to Mark.
Okay, Mark wants to have a bite.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back again for but 2 more very quick slides just to wrap up. And thank you for this very interesting insights from you, the application of the gap assessment in Egypt. And here, just this slide should just show and demonstrate the broad spectrum regarding needs and possible entry points to advance a sustainable industrial areas transformation. And usually a gap assessment, as we've seen, is a suitable point to start. And here also a few further links that you can or are welcome to look into to these services, and also examples of how they've been integrated into other contexts or projects as well. Now, a final slide, and I'd like to wrap up in returning to the question from the very beginning. Why sustainable industrial areas? So apart from the direct benefits of a sustainable industrial areas approach and tools for concrete industrial spaces, parks, their tenants, communities, and the environment directly surrounding the industrial space, sustainable industrial areas and eco-industrial parks can also be an important vehicle to advance regional, national, global agendas, as well as also critical transformations in these areas. So be it from decarbonization of the industry, advancing a just transition, or introducing sustainability in value chains. And at the same time also, it is through these agendas and larger transformations that have high visibility in the public eye, that then again can also act as a driver to attract attention and investment in industrial parks and areas. So we would like to end with a question. I'm not sure if we have time to discuss it, or maybe just to rather reflect upon, but as we've got a broad realm of deep international experience in the room, I'd just like to ask, how do you feel governments use industrial parks and areas as catalysts to advance these transformations and agendas, and do they do so enough, or does further potential come to mind? With that, thank you very much for your attention, and don't hesitate to approach in case of any questions or follow-up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure they will be able to answer that question of yours during the Q&A session. Professor Rana, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Rana Singh. He's going to be speaking to us about the UNIDO EIP tools to support the life cycle of eco-industrial parks. Give him another big round of applause. But what did you do here? Did you do something? Oh, sorry, sir. Yeah. The one below.
This
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
Hello to everybody. My name is Rana Singh, and on behalf of my EIP team from UNIDO, I'm going to explain something about the EIP tools. Just to begin, we know industry is one of the very important things happened since last 250 years when this small scale of industries came into picture, then its size grew, and then after some time, they were maximizing their benefit in terms of an individual isolated industry. It came into existence in terms of industrial parks. And then money making was the prime thing, but ignoring so many things, there were a lot of concern about the equity distribution. There were concern about the environment. There were concern about some kind of maximizing even the economic benefit with real facts and figure, going through a lot of data collection and observations made on the spot and making a evidence-based decision is the objective of this EIP tool. So when we are talking about EIP tool, we are talking on the surface. But if we want to deep dive, then we will understand there is a huge exercise behind it. For each and every tool, we have to do a lot of exercise. This is the one of the common thing. The first presenter also presented the same thing, so I'm just escaping, but just to make that, it is going to consider some of the components into it, like park management, RECP, that is resource efficiency and cleaner production, industrial and urban or industrial and community synergies, then sustainable communities and natural environment, and planning. Yeah, spatial planning and zoning. So these are some of the things we are going to cover in this tool. But most importantly, what we are going to introduce right now is UNIDO has 10 number of tools which we usually recommend for everyone to consider while they are talking about eco-industrial park, while they are working for the eco-industrial park. So these tools are categorized into different categories. You can see in between there is implementation support tools, but it is divided into two categories. One is applicable at the very bottom level, that is at the park level, tenant level. Another one, the third column, is talking about the country level. What it is, I will just introduce it. And then on the left, we can say planning tool. And these planning tools are also very important, and conceptualizing and the master planning of the existing one, or even for the green one, if you have the master plan, then it should be reviewed critically before we go further. As I said, implementation at the country level, we have to deal with the relevant policy, strategy, and kind of thing, how we can strengthen the EIP promotion in the country. If the country policy is not adopting EIP, if that is not going to be supported in terms of tax or in support of some kind of benefit by the government, that is not going to be beneficial. So that policy support is very important. And then, which one park is your eco-industrial park? There should be a definition. And what is that definition? What are those criteria? We have to scrutinize against each and every park existing in the country. And that's how, first of all, we will consolidate a list of eco-industrial parks. People can say in this country there are 50, there are 200, there are 500 parks. But in reality, are they qualified to be called as EIP? That is the first thing we have to define. And so there is an exercise, Excel sheet behind it, and there are so many parameters. Yeah. Usually we are talking about KPIs, but for each and every tool, we have certain KPIs and which we have to quantify. And then according to that minimum requirement, if it is there, then we can say, okay, this park is eco-industrial park. Then we have to also assess something at the park level. We can see how it is performing today. If it is in eco-industrial park, then how it is working today, where is the performance level, and where is the gap, and what is the minimum requirement respect to that criteria. So in that way, we have to make an assessment, then we have to also address how the park management is performing. In the morning, our seniors were discussing about the benefit of management. It is really, really very beneficial. We have seen some of the successful EIPs in some country, and we understood how important this park management is. If park management is smart, they will be able to provide the service support and convincing services to the tenant companies to opt for this EIP. So this is also very important, and this tool is also important tool we are using in every case. So access to finance, that is the excellent tool, and it is now gaining momentum and appreciation in each and every country. So we are, and all tools are dynamic in nature. With the time, with the experience, with the need, we are modifying or updating it. So finance is also one among the very important where we are interacting at the tenant level. And industrial symbiosis is, of course, just before this session, there was a lot of talk about industrial symbiosis, so I'm not going to describe it, but it is one of the things where we are going through circularity, we are going through material efficiency, we are going through a lot of economic values capturing there, and at the same time, reducing the environmental burden, and also, of course, we have to think about the social equity distribution. So in this way, this country level and the park level kind of implementation interventions are there. And finally, monitoring tools. It is really important. In my almost 32, 33 years of professional career, I have seen if we are smart in monitoring, then you will get the good results. If you are weaker in the monitoring, whatever you are supplying, you will fail. That is for sure. So this tool is very, very important where we are talking about two special things. EIP opportunities, identification and monitoring is one part, but RECP is given a special name. Why? Because in the EIP performance, the major benefit is located nearby RECP related kind of thing. Energy management system, energy performance efficiency, and there are so many things which comes under this RECP exercise, and that will lead you where is the gap and how to improve it. So in this way, these 10 tools are very important, and now I'm taking you to a real picture how it works in a EIP park. IP park. So what is happening if there is a IP, suppose industrial park, which you want to translate into EIP, or if there is a brand new kind of greenfield where you want to conceptualize and think about developing this EIP, you have to use those kind of things. And just for the quick cap, what I can see, there are two approaches. One is the top-down approach, and there is the bottom-up approach. Top-down approach, we all know that there should be a policy-related kind of support existing in the country. So there is the tool which we use. What about the bottom up? Always we are landing to the problem where is the money. And money matters a lot. And money matters sometimes too much. Yeah. So if you are interacting with the tenant companies or the users, beneficiaries, they will say, okay, I am okay with you. Your knowledge is very good. We are convinced. We want to move. But where is the money? How I can get it, what will be the cost of lending, or how it will be the risk-free, and these are the things. So these are the two approaches, and in between you can see these tools are used in different stages. One is a scoping and feasibility planning stage. Another is the construction where the investment will come. Maybe our World Bank partner will come and assist them, and then the operation and continuous improvement, there are certain tools we are going to use. So in this way, and once you have done up to a maximum efficient EIP establishment, it is not going to be end. It's a dynamic system. So after some time, you will land into this situation. What it is. For example, here is the financial return as one of the parameters, most important parameter. If you are good on environment, if you are good on distribution, equity distribution, but if you are financially, or maybe for the government, economically you are good, but financially if you are not good, then what will happen? There will be no investment and there will be no action. So in this way, we have taken one parameter as financial return and another as the time. So in this down block, you can see it is a danger block. We don't want to be there. We want to be in green block. So if an industrial park is having some problem, it will go down. But with this kind of tools, if you assess it, if you improve it, then it will enter into the green zone where it will be matured after some time, but it is not going to retain at the constant level. With the time, with the change, with the context changing, that will be also likely to go decline. And at some point, you have to realize that, oh, certain factors, certain tool I have to pump in the EIP so that it can be again rerouted with the next curve, right? So in this way, this EIP tool is very, very efficiently used. For more information, please, these are some of the links where you can find it. So with this, I welcome you to have a look, and if there is any question, please raise to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Singh. Thank you very much. Please do come, my dear. You are the last one standing between people going to... Huh?
I don't think. Am I audible to you though?
You got to come, you will be audible. Whose notes are these?
Hello everyone. Unfortunately, I'm too short for this lecture,
Okay,
so I'm going to be standing
okay,
here.
switch on that one.
Hello. Okay, now it's switched on.
Okay, it's on.
All right. Thank you so much. I see those tired faces here. I'm so sorry. I promise that it's not going to be long. So, it's been an honor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tammy. Thank you very much, NCPC South Africa, for making this happen. I'm Nisa. I'm working with UNIDO at the headquarters. I guess I'm going to start this presentation with a little story. Is it here? Oops. All right. So let me start this with a little story. A while back, I was working in my office, all right, in Vienna, when this senior guy came into my office looking for a piece of paper. So I helped him out with this paper that he was looking. Turns out he wanted to write a letter, a memo or something, to a colleague of his that he didn't manage to meet. So there was a conversation between us, and turns out the senior gentleman used to work at UNIDO some time ago, like 20 years ago, something. And then we engaged in a conversation. He used to work on the resource efficiency and the cleaner production. And then I also added that our program was actually built upon this. And then, so the conversation goes for 20 minutes, until what point this gentleman realized that he hasn't even asked what I was working on at the Global Eco-Industrial Park Program. To which I reply, I am a knowledge manager, and also I'm in charge of developing gender strategies for the Global Eco-Industrial Park Program, and also I'm a general focal point for the unit. To my surprise, his response was, he put a face like this, and then the question that comes out from him was, is that a real job? Well done. So I bursted out laughing. Then I guess that's the reason why I am here. So I'm going to be bringing you into the journey of advancing gender equality in eco-industrial parks. Oops. So here we are. As part of a UN agency, we are actually obliged to contribute to the global agenda, of course, and in this sense, it's going to be SDG 5, gender equality. But then, for UNIDO, the objective of global mainstreaming is actually for women and men to equally lead, participate in, and benefit from inclusive and sustainable industrial development. Okay, if it's not enough, then to understand the magnitude of this issue, I want you to consider this statistics. Women comprises of 39% of the global workforce, but then only 27% in managerial positions. In manufacturing, this becomes a little bit more pronounced because then women have 24% of the manufacturing sector, and less than 15% holds technical roles. Because what? We have less women in the STEM sectors, in the science, technology, engineering, and maths, where the higher paying jobs is usually coming from. So this is a study of the IMF a while back. If we then manage to narrow down the gap of the gender discrepancies, then we will benefit of the increase of GDP by 8%. Then imagine if we can really close that gap, we're gonna get 23% increase in GDP. I'm not gonna be talking much about this. This is just, you've seen all of this, but you know that each and every step that we have to take, we have to refer back to this. These are the 5 indicators that is outlined in the Eco-Industrial Parks, International Eco-Industrial Parks framework. But then the social aspect of, I'm talking about the social aspect of the Eco-Industrial Park program, is also that all these 11 indicators actually require gender lens to be implemented, to which I refer to, I am referring to gender perspectives are incorporated in the formulation, management, and monitoring of plans and programs. This is increasingly relevant as more and more GAPE participating countries or more and more industrial parks wanted to be certified. And there must be a baseline to assess this. So, to help our industrial parks to solve these problems, what we do, we develop a gender tool. So a gender tool was actually a tool that was derived from the women empowerment principles, 7 of them, and then we then break them down into this, I'm bad at this one. All right, then we have 10 components. From these components, then we are going to break them down again into 32 elements that the companies and industrial parks needs to assess. This is how the tools looks like. We have here the first question that the company and industrial parks has to answer is, does the park or company comply with the elements at the time? Then they will be provided with a drop-down menu here. Yeah, yes, no, yes, partially. And then if the answer is yes or no, then they must specify where the room for improvements can be identified in the design. For example, implementation, assessment, communication, and others, and then they need to specify this. Then the results will be looking like this. This is just the general results that you're going to be getting. There will be a tally of how many yes, partially no, not applicable. The most interesting part of this is also going to generate the percentage, and then it's also going to generate which components you have to prioritize in order for you to perform better in a gender performance. And then this is the table of prioritization and work plan, which then comes with a key feature here of automatic suggestion. So suppose that we chose that we need to think about the corporate policies and commitments to gender equality for a longer time. What do we need to do? So here is the action. Creating inclusive policies for women and improving corporate culture, become a more inclusive and attractive place for women and stuff like that. So there will be automatic suggestions depending if you are going to make it short-term, medium-term, or long-term. All right, what to consider? This is the most fun part. So for this, you have to form an inclusive working group Because why do we have to be inclusive? Because we need to include all the perspectives. So it shouldn't be a top-down approach, it shouldn't be a bottom-up, but it has to be both. And then communicate the commitment to achieve gender equality at a company level. This is important because everyone has to know. You need to secure buy-ins from everyone, and then run the self-assessment in the working group together. So, and then most importantly, communicate the action plan for necessary endorsement. So bring it to the board, have the endorsement from senior level management to ensure that everyone can be can really commit to gender advancement in your company and your industrial park. So we have tested it out, actually, these tools in Peru and Colombia. I'm not going to go into detail with this one. A while back, it was actually developed in Peru, and then we got to test this out in both Peru and Colombia in our industrial parks beneficiaries. We've got the baseline because we need a baseline, like I mentioned, and then globally we suffer from the lack of gender disaggregated data, which is then lead to gender bias policies, leads to a gender bias infrastructures, for example, and then gender bias decision makings. Here's the medium progress, as you can see, the component 3, participation, but here's where we really have to pay attention to. So, for example, suppliers, value chain, and supply chains. So this is not an easy task to do, of course, but there is a room for improvement. And then this is the most interesting part. Why these tools? The cost. First, externally, consultancy for gender issue can cost between 15,000 to 20,000 US dollars. I promise you my paycheck didn't look like this. And then there's an easy application specifically designed for industrial parks and tenant companies. So there are many tools out there, including from the WEP, but then this one is specifically designed for industrial parks and tenant companies. And then this is a scientifically based tools that we created based on the UN Women methodology. And then from this, time-wise, company can immediately identify the areas of improvement and can easily trace progress. They can be used to inform board of directors, financial institutions, and certification entities. So with that, thank you very much for your attention. That's fast. I'm looking forward. And then before that, cheers to all the hardworking women out there. A round of applause.
I really agree with that. You know, let's give a big round of applause for our women. Yes. I think they do excellent work everywhere, right? Oh, some men don't seemingly to agree. And women who are not agreeing are just full of jealousy. Don't you agree that women do quite a lot? You know, you're not convincing, you know. Is it too late for that? Come on, Baron, you've been chowing time here all day long. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have sort of reached the end of our of this session. But what I'm going to appreciate from you is that maybe let me see by show of hands how many of you have got profound questions. That's a profound. He's bold, yes, and you, and so I've got 1, 2. So no woman, no cry. So no questions from any man from any woman about women issues, gender. You don't want to vocalize some of these challenges that you're facing. Okay. Let me take you, sir.
Perfect. Thank you, Tommy. Just a question, a quick one. That framework, that tool, you might have mentioned, but where can we access that tool?
The EIP one
Yeah.
from
Oh,
Professor Rana.
Yeah.
Oh, which one?
No, the one right at the end for just measuring the gender.
Oh, the gender one.
The gender one.
Yeah.
The gender one for the time being is still only accessible in Spanish, but in the next weeks to come, we will make it available in Knowledge Hub, UNIDO Knowledge Hub, the one in English. So it is easily adaptable. It can be, translated into all other languages.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Tommy.
Great. Okay, there's another question there, sir. You're not technologically challenged like my friend was sitting there.
No.
Okay.
My question is just an observation, hearing from all the presenters. Tools. There are so many tools that, if you talk to people like us who are practitioners, we feel like, the process is all academic, and all they're trying to build on the EAP processes. So my question is there no way we can harmonize so that we can two-pager of tools that build on the same?
Yeah, I like that. I think it's more practical. So I'm gonna throw the question to all the academicians that we have here. Prof, can we harmonize?
Yes,
and
so
doctors
I was also observing the same thing from the morning. Different people are explaining their tool and how to conserve the area, how to conserve water, and this is called this organization tool, that organization tool. But we have also taken into consideration how to reflect that kind of objective explained by many people in our EIP set of 10 tools. Maybe there will be additional one or two more tool coming in future because it's based on need or some kind of context, right? So the EIP 10 tools, what we have explained to you, it is more or less covering everything what you would need for translating IPs into EIP.
Yeah, I think this is a very genuine observation, and NCPC, parent, and team, this is an easy one for me. We need to harmonize. Faith, I don't know. I know you just a speaker here, but what do you think? If I can just ask for your observations. But I think we really need to harmonize. There's quite a lot of tools, of systems, and these things interlink that we've all been talking about. And somehow we need to just find a way of simplifying them for practitioners on the ground, especially those who have just to run some of the templates to help these communities in industrial parks, So you don't want to take them off for a couple of weeks, bombarding them with quite a load of information. But yes, I think this is they can use a certain portal like we have started to do in case of South Africa, where we're going to have a portal at NCPC of all the material. But I think at the end, there needs to be a simplified version for people to, yes, don't frown at me. I said simplified, don't complicate things. This is South Africa, not Germany.
Maybe, you can hear me. I was sitting here thinking, Sarah just mentioned this is the tools session. So, of course, we are going to talk about tools. But I think, to Kash's point, I think it's a very important point that we need to make sure that the tools that are available are also simplified for the users who need to use them, and that we shouldn't overwhelm the colleagues who have to apply many of the different tools that we used. But I also thought of something else. Yeah. I think it's important that as a practitioner working on whether it's implementing the eco-industrial park framework or a symbiotic process or doing the calculations that's needed, I don't know, around water usage or your carbon footprint or whatever, I think it's important that you know that there are excellent resources out there across different organizations and different platforms, and access to those instruments and tools is critical. And I think what I like about the session is that a lot of all the tools actually that were spoken about is open source, it's available, and it will be translated, like the gender tool, in different languages as well. So I think for practitioners, there's a community out there that's focusing on not just making sure you have the information needed to do the job that you need to do, but that it's accessible. So I think that's the one principle that I think is a very rich and important one. The second maybe observation as well is that I think it's good to simplify, and I think simplification is critical. But if you need to do the work and do the calculations like Prath spoke about, or go deep into how do you actually measure symbiotic do the calculations for to measure symbiosis, then I think we need to understand that these are not things that can be simplified, but we need to honor the integrity of having to measure that, understand its impact, and then make sure that the message or the outcome of that is simplified for our government partners and or our users in industrial parks. And I think that should be an important principle, that we find the common language in terms of the implementation of the tools for the users who need to use it. I sound like a politician, but yeah.
Thank you very much for giving that. Let's give a big round of applause. Thank you very much for giving those closing remarks for me. And I think give yourselves a very, very big round of applause because you've been able to sit here until the last day. Be excited. Now we're going home now. So I think for me, it's been a very rewardful experience today to continue the work that we do, which is networking, talking about these central words, I think, key words like collaborating, sustainability, resilience, partnerships, tools like we're saying, systematic thinking, building communities, building people, building their businesses and building their spaces, the ecosystems that we've been talking about. So I think those are very, very critical aspects that we have touched on from the start of this conference deliberation. And of course, we've heard from the very different stakeholders who are critical actually in building this institution of eco-industrial practices, especially benchmarking it with our context in South Africa. We've always been having these aspirations, I think, with the South African Inc. team that we needed to build a truly South African a tapestry sort of doing eco-industrial parks. And I think we're getting there. We've displayed that as we learn from our colleagues from Colombia, Peru, and all the other countries who have presented. I know Chile as well is quite on the map in terms of giving us some of these lessons. So that we can also formulate a very reliable and tested sort of policy and act towards industrial parks framework and its implementation. So I do believe that what has been shared with us today, especially we who are in South Africa, and also as some of you will be taking these lessons back to your country and to your practical industrial park and the different institutions that you're representing, you will also further, I think, build and also bolster your standards or your framework that you've been working on. One of the things that really, I think, made a mark, an impression to me was Vanessa. Where's Vanessa? Oh, I nearly thought youth don't have a good retention span. If you were not here, I would have said that. But thank you for staying the course. Because I'm told, the young generation, their attention span is very limited, But she stayed on. So we give you a very big round of applause. And we need to be passionate and intentional about youth development in industry, because they are going to take us to the next I think, millennia of industrialization. So in every one of our programs, let us encourage the participation of youth. In South Africa, we've got 60% plus youth who are unemployed. Most of them have got some form of qualifications in one way or the other. And I do believe even with those skills that they do have, they can do some lot of artisanry work, trades work. So we need to encourage and push our youth to be very active in terms of economy and industry. Because if we do not do that, it's going to give us a burden globally. You know, it's not going to only be a South Africa or Africa's problem. It's just going to be a world problem. So let's work together on that. I think putting the priorities on youth programs at the center of everything that we do. Let us, I think, promote that. And again, lastly, one important element is what Nisa just talked about, the gender mainstreaming into the industrial ecosystem. It's very, very important as well. I think most of the practices, if we can see, fortunately here today, as we are sitting here, there's more women. So, you know, that's big ups to that. You know. But usually, in some of the meetings you go to, you find people that look like parents, you know, and filling up the chairs, you know. So, you know, it's only men usually. So we need to slowly be intentional once again with those systems. If we are intentional, we design programs, we listen to women, we work with them, we can find quite a lot of lessons in where I come from, the experiences that I know of in the townships, in the rural communities that I've worked with. I know women are able to feed a family of 13, one woman. A man, when he finds money, he goes and he drinks and, you know, with his friends, that the money is finished. But a woman is able to share the money with 13 people. So I think, you know, based on that, we should really appreciate and take to cognizance that if we empower a woman, like we say in South Africa, you empower a nation, you know, a community and a nation. But a man, I don't know. Let's leave it to that. So I think those are encouraging things. And we also learned of very numerous case studies, which, of course, we are going to be interacting with some of our colleagues from these other countries' parents. So you make sure that the contacts, when I need them, you know, when somebody needs them, we have got them in the portal. We can be able to reach and collaborate. We need to build an international network of industrial parks practices based on the eco-industrial parks framework and transformation, so that all these industrial parks, we know in the South African context, they do play that role. So thank you for all of you for coming to grace this conference and really for making the impact. Your presence here is really appreciated. So to all of you, we give a big round of applause. Barent is going to announce the program for tomorrow. Thank you. He doesn't want me to be the last man to speak.
You can come and stand here with me, so you can have a last word. Now, just the logistical arrangements. Those that need to take the shuttle to the hotel, I've asked that the shuttle is kept for another 10 minutes or so. So please don't stress. Okay, so that's all I want to say. You can say the last word.
No, we're done.
Okay, we're done. Thank you. Have a lovely day.